You are listening to the EdTech Takeout from Grantwood AEA, an educational service agency that supports school districts in eastern Iowa with a focus on equity, excellence, and efficiency in education for all children.
Welcome to episode 42 of the EdTech Takeout, the podcast that serves up bite-sized technology tips for teachers. My name is Jonathan Wiley, and this is Mindy Carney.
Hello.
Hello, Mindy.
Big show today.
It is a big show today.
Yeah, we got lots to talk about.
You know, I was driving my kids to school the other day, and I wish I had this recorded, but I couldn't because I was driving.
And your inner voice.
Yes.
Record your inner voice?
No, but
what?
I wish I could record my kids, because my two kids were in the back seat, and my daughter was saying, "Hello, welcome to the EdTech Takeout," and all this kind of thing, and I'm like, oh, is that what we sound like?
Ah, jeez. I don't know.
Sometimes I wonder.
Yeah, well.
Let's just move on to the news and follow up and ignore that whole concept.
Okay, so this is kind of maybe older news, but I just mentioned it to someone the other day, and they had not heard it yet, and that's about Padlet.
Yeah, Padlet's made some changes.
Oh, and okay, so the news about Padlet is that they have gone down to, if you're just signing up with Padlet now and have not created an account, but are becoming a new user, you only get 3 Padlets for free.
Yeah.
And it used to be that you got, I think, endless amount. Do you think?
As far as I know, yeah.
Right. So if you are a current user of Padlet, they came up with some sort of formula, right, about how many Padlets you get. So everybody's number is different. So it depended on how many Padlets you already had, how many you had created in the last 3 months, and then they put those two together, and that's how many Padlets you get. So my number is 31. What's your number? Do you remember?
I don't remember. I think it was like 32 or something.
No, of course, because it was bigger than mine.
I think it was.
I don't think so.
But the long and short of this is there's now is it $99 a year?
Yes.
For a teacher plan to use Padlet.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's crazy.
Well, it's obviously something they're thinking they need to do in order to keep the lights on, but it seems to be a price point that a lot of people have balked at a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and I think you said this too, is that, well, you know, didn't you know it was coming? Because they've made just like all of these enormous, awesome changes to Padlet probably in the last 6 months, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And so I guess maybe we should have seen it coming.
Yeah, well, we'll keep an eye on it and see where this goes. But yeah, just a heads up, if you are working with teachers or you yourself are on Padlet and you're like, wait, what do you mean I can't create any more Padlet boards? And that's why. So you either go back and delete some of your old ones.
Yep.
Or you just manage.
Just clean off your old ones.
Yeah.
If it were me, I would go in and make as many Padlets as they'll let you make.
Yeah.
And just keep them blank or whatever, because I
keep deleting the posts.
I'm just interested to see if that number is going to continue to come down yet.
All right.
I don't know. Okay.
On to some happier news. I'm going to mention the new Adobe Spark for Education that came out. And Adobe released a press release on this, I don't know, maybe a couple months ago, saying that it was coming, and now it's here. And it basically means that educators now have the ability to set up an Adobe Spark for Education deployment where your kids can log in with their Google accounts or their Microsoft accounts or a number of different other accounts in order to use Adobe Spark for Education, and they can do so be compliant with COPPA and all those regulations. So your elementary students can have their own accounts. They don't have to share a teacher account anymore, which is very nice.
Yeah.
They also get access to some premium features, like you can remove the Adobe Spark watermark. You get a whole bunch of extra branding and images you have access to. So this is all 100% free, and just needs you to set up a couple of things with Adobe. So if you already have a Creative Cloud suite with Adobe, then you already have an Adobe dashboard that you can get into and deploy this. It has to be done at the IT level. It's not something you can do as a teacher.
Oh, really?
Correct.
Oh.
But otherwise, if you don't have Creative Cloud, you can still set up this Adobe dashboard in the cloud free and add your users and deploy that out so that you can use Adobe Spark Post, Adobe Spark Page, and Adobe Spark Video. I sometimes forget the names of those things.
I do too.
Yes.
They've changed a couple of times, that's why.
Yes. So, there you go. Free Adobe Spark for Education for everyone.
For everyone. All right. Well, I feel like I'm a downer today because I'm also announcing that the goo.gl goal URL shortener is, well, it's dead now.
We should just do good cop, bad cop. You do the bad ones, and I'll do the good ones.
I would be a great bad cop.
Yeah.
I'd be a good bad cop. But anyway, I don't know that this is like awful for lots of people. The place that I'm going to miss it the most, like if I'm sharing stuff on Twitter, because those URLs are always kind of crazy anyway, because like letters, numbers, capitals. It was hard for people, I think, sometimes to, in a presentation, to look up there and be like, oh, the capital S,
yes,
3,
definitely.
7. But I used it a lot when I was sharing stuff on Twitter, so I'm going to definitely miss that, but they're still good if you've used it in the past.
The links are good and they'll still redirect.
Yep.
And was it you that asked about the QR codes as well?
No, that was Amber, but
the
did you
QR
hear anything about
codes
that?
should also redirect, I think, because they're just a URL,
Okay.
basically.
Yeah.
Yep, so no more goo.gl, but there's
Right.
other things. What would you recommend people use instead, Mindy?
I use tinyURL or Bitly.
Yep.
Either one, which is nice because you can personalize them if you want to, but sometimes it's just hard to find
Yes.
a personalized URL that works. But it will still generate like that weird, kind of like the URL shortener did.
The alphanumeric code
thank
at the
you.
end.
Yes. Yeah. It'll create a generic one for you.
All right, then.
Okay.
On to the good news side of the table today. And there is a facelift coming for Gmail.
Yeah.
And I think we've talked about this in the past when we did our inbox challenge about...
Which we're still...
Yes.
We're still in
We're
inbox.
still inboxers.
We're still there.
I switched over to Gmail the other day to get something or find something that I couldn't get in inbox. And I was really shocked by
so
how
ugly now.
ugly that looks. I know. So, it's not had much in the design department for a little while now, Gmail, but Google came out with this kind of preemptive press release that said, coming soon, a new design for Gmail, and they didn't tell us really what that would look like or anything, but there have been a bunch of leaked screenshots and things that we can link to in the show notes if you're interested. Yeah. And it just looks a little bit cleaner, a little bit nicer. It's taking some of the features from Inbox, like snoozed
Which
emails.
I love. That's my favorite part of Inbox.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. I forget it's there sometimes, but I do use it now and again.
Yeah.
There might be something that's rumored to be like a confidentiality mode where
love this idea.
This is kind of Mission Impossible style where you could set an email to self-destruct after a certain amount of time so that it's
so I can tell you what I really think.
Yeah. Tell us what you really think, Mindy.
And then it's going to blow up.
And then make it expire in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I'll screenshot it and then send it to HR.
Right.
So keep an eye out for that. It is coming to the early adopter program in G Suite for Education and G Suite for Business. So it's maybe it's already here by the time you heard this podcast.
Right, maybe.
Yeah, check it out.
All right, well, I have one more gripe.
Okay.
So have you noticed that Tables has not disappeared, but now it's hidden in Docs? So it used to just be a button kind of up in your toolbar, and now you have to go into Insert and then Tables. Slowing me down, man. Don't slow down my workflow.
No, I did not notice that. Yeah. So I'm bringing up the Google Doc here of our show notes. It used to be Table on the top, didn't it? And now it's Insert. Well, I guess it makes sense under the Insert menu because that's where you insert stuff.
No, it doesn't. Because now I have to... make 3 clicks instead of just 1. And then if I need to edit my table, I have to go back in because Table is no longer a drop-down.
Okay, so here's my question for you. Maybe this will mess with your mind.
No.
Was it always in Insert as well, and they just took away the Table thing?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
I don't know.
Maybe it was. I don't know.
Yeah. So.
But there's one other thing that's changed with Docs too, right? And you're super excited about this, although I don't think it's that big of a deal. And that now Highlighter has a button.
Well, yeah.
Which is not an even exchange. Highlighter button and Tables.
But it's not like they took Tables away.
No, they hid it. They didn't just create Highlighter.
They hid it under the menu where if you want to add something to your document, then that's where you go.
Whatever, Google. Whatever.
Okay, yeah, they did add the highlighter button, which is...
We shall uprise.
The highlighter button has annoyed me in the past because whenever I've gone to change my text color for some random
I
reason.
know, right?
I've highlighted the text instead, and it's like, dun, or the other way around. I've gone to highlight some text and change the color of the font. But so now they broke that up, and that has helped me out, I think.
Well, as long as you're satisfied, then I guess that's all that matters.
Well, Google gives, Google taketh away.
Whatevs. Google. All right, so on to our main course. We have a very special guest today. Dr. Ryan Weiss is joining us. He's the director of the Iowa Department of Education. Dr. Weiss, do you have tell us a little bit about your background or how you became the Iowa Director of Education?
Sure. Well, first, thanks so much for having me on your podcast today. I really appreciate this opportunity and look forward to the conversation. This is my third year as director of the Iowa Department of Education, and I've actually been at the department now for almost 6 years. I came here initially as part of a 10-month residency, completing my doctoral program at Harvard, and ended up just staying. Love Iowa, love Des Moines. I have 2 young sons who are in 3rd grade and 6th grade. They attend Des Moines Public Schools. I'm a South Dakota native, so Iowa is just a great natural fit for my family. I started my career as a high school history teacher, taught for 5 years, worked on the Rosebud and Pine Ridge reservations. I started Teach for America there and worked there for several years, and worked internationally for a few years as well, but am happy and proud to be an Iowan now.
We're happy to have you.
Yeah. I was actually looking on your Twitter account the other day, so sorry for the Twitter stalking, but you have this great tweet pinned to your profile that says, first grade son, intro for me. This is my dad, Mr. Ryan Weiss. He's the director of education. He visits classrooms and does stuff.
Yeah, I pinned that because it's really accurate, right? I think that's the best introduction I've ever had. And that's appropriate.
And I think that's one of the things I really admire about the role that you have is that you do make a lot of visits out to school districts, and you're really very visible in terms of, getting out there and seeing what's going on. So what kind of things are you seeing or hearing lately that's helping shape your ideas about education policy in Iowa?
Well, I just think it's critically important that I'm in schools, every week, whenever that's possible. By the end of the year, I'll have visited over 150 school districts in Iowa.
Wow.
And there are a lot of commonalities, but every school has its own story to tell. And so when I'm in schools, I'm looking at a few things. First, I start off looking at the big statewide initiatives, things like our focus on early literacy, the implementation of our teacher leadership system, or TLC, our efforts to strengthen career and technical education across Iowa, efforts to improve work-based learning and hands-on real-world experiences, and things that I know every district in Iowa are focused on, and that we're trying to play a leadership role in as the state. And then I'm always interested in hearing what are the unique things that are happening in districts, and what are both the opportunities and challenges schools are facing, and how can we at the Department of Education be a partner to schools in those efforts. And so, just last week I was down in Southeast Iowa on Friday and was in Central Lee Community School District. And, over a third of their kids in the high school are in agricultural programs. And they are hands-on, completely modernized approaches to agriculture. And to see, what they're doing and what that looks like in Central Lee, is really, really interesting. And then in Keokuk, some of the work they were doing around providing hands-on, community-based opportunities for kids. And so I think seeing those examples and where districts are really pushing is helpful for me when I'm out in other districts and can cross-pollinate ideas and say, hey, that's great. I'm seeing something similar in X district. When I was in Keokuk, I gave an example of Edgewood Colesburg that is, I think would be a really nice supplement to what they're doing. So the teacher there was reaching out to the teacher in EdCo to say, okay, how do we add that? So I think those are, the general approaches I'm taking when I'm in schools.
Great.
Yeah, it's really great to build those relationships. We try and build those relationships within our agency area, but you being able to do that statewide is a whole different kind of layer to it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's great, and that's the AEA system is vitally important to this effort. And I know, particularly in the context of teacher leadership, the AEAs have been truly visionary and have played a connective role in that. And then I try and amplify it by doing it statewide as well, just as you said, Mindy.
Yeah, so the teacher leadership system is obviously a huge deal in Iowa, and I can't express how pleased everyone is that leadership position exists. So what pleases you the most about the implementation of that program? What are the biggest successes that you've seen, or can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, teacher leadership is why I initially came to Iowa. That was the subject of my residency, was facilitating the initial task force that came up with the recommendations. So to see that over the past 6 years grow from just an initial idea of, hey, we think this would be good, to full implementation in every school in Iowa has been really exciting. What to me right now is most meaningful about this is just the cultural transformation in teaching that TLC has created in Iowa, particularly as it relates to the quality and frequency of collaboration and the impact of professional learning or professional development on teachers' practice. I think back to when I was teaching. I taught at a very large high school in Omaha, Nebraska, and there were 19 of us in the social studies department alone, one leadership position. And it was the department chair, and it consisted of textbook adoption and scheduling subs.
Right.
That's not really, true leadership. And our team meetings were just a quick run through of announcements and head on with your day. And professional development, we had as teachers no role in shaping that. Well, I looked at Iowa now in 2018, and it is an entirely different universe, right? I mean, teachers have an active role in shaping what professional learning looks like. Collaboration is the norm. I don't walk into schools where teachers just shut their doors and don't collaborate. Like that just, it doesn't happen anymore. It's a new way of doing business in Iowa schools. And I think long term, that's going to put us on the path to be to lead the nation again in terms of student outcomes and student learning.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think, one of the other things that has been really prevalent or coming up a lot, especially in the work that Mindy and I do, because we work with schools to help them integrate technology more in the classroom, but I was working on this digital learning plan and thinking about how we can more effectively and use and see the impact of technology in the classroom. So could you maybe talk more about how that's going and what that process looks like?
Yeah, so I'd say a couple of things. The technology integration has been a really exciting subcomponent of TLC in a lot of places, because I think in Iowa, there's just been a lot of organic, from the ground up adoption of technology. And, you see in so many places the one-to-one initiatives, really trying to get good, high-quality technology in the hands of students and teachers. And what I experienced when I first came to Iowa is that I think the access to technology probably outran the pedagogy, the teaching skills behind implementing that technology. And I think the teacher leadership system has allowed teaching to catch up to technology. And I think the way TLC was designed in Iowa to empower districts to craft leadership roles that met their local needs have allowed districts that maybe felt in that situation that, they had great technology, but maybe teachers weren't maximizing the use of it, has allowed them to take their early adopters, put them in leadership roles, and really more effectively integrate technology into instruction. And so that's been really exciting to see, the ownership districts have taken over technology integration and really integrated that with teacher leadership. And to me, regardless of what we're talking about, if it's teacher leadership or technology or early literacy, we need to see all of these as parts of a whole, as aligned and integrated, and not, okay, there's folks over here that are talking about literacy and folks over here that are thinking about teacher leadership. It's how do we bring all of this together so that they're not separate initiatives, but that we're really leveraging teacher leadership on implementation of all of these really important things. And then you mentioned, Jonathan, an important point around the digital literacy plan. We've had our digital learning plan. There's a national digital learning plan, and now there's some really great work happening across the state, led by the AEAs and in partnership with the department and school districts around creating a state digital learning plan. And I think this is going to be, it's going to be rolling out in the weeks and months ahead, really talking about, what does high quality digital learning look like, and how do we integrate that in an Iowa context? So they're really taking the National Digital Learning Plan framework and peppering it with really great examples from Iowa that we can use to chart a path forward.
So we have obviously read the National Digital Learning Plan because of our positions, but maybe teachers, that's not something that they've looked at before, just because it might not be something that they have time for. They might be more likely, obviously, to read the Iowa Digital Learning Plan. What are some things they should look for, or what should they kind of put their focus of learning on when they're reading it through themselves?
Yeah. Well, again, I think to me it comes down to how does digital learning and how does all of this fit together and ensure that digital learning is fully integrated into how schools educate students, because I think it can really work to strengthen the efforts districts have been doing to improve early literacy, expand high quality career and technical education offerings, leverage teacher leadership. So I think, teachers should read that with an eye toward, how does digital learning enhance all of the other things that are happening in schools, and then look to the examples that once it gets to the state plan, look to the examples of what are other districts doing and how can you leverage partnerships, for example, with the AEAs to enhance work that's happening locally.
Yeah, and that's definitely a challenge that we have when we're going into schools, or even working with some of our AEA staff here. It's that people have traditionally thought technology is like a separate thing. It's, you guys are the tech guys, and so you guys can do this. But what we try and reinforce as much as we can is that, technology is just part of good teaching. And that when you're teaching good stuff and good content, you're choosing appropriate moments and when to use technology and when to enhance things with technology, and also when not to use technology, I guess, too.
Well, and I think the examples are so nice because so often people hear us talk about the big picture and we talk all flowery about it and we're, overly optimistic, but actually letting them see snapshots of what that actually looks like is very beneficial to people too.
Absolutely. And I'll say, in addition to that, another thing that I hear a lot about when I'm out in schools, and there are some great examples of this, but it's a movement around how do we personalize education and allow students greater ownership and voice in this. And I think digital learning can be a tool for doing that as well, and can be a pathway for that. So I think that personalization approach, having really good examples and bringing it down to a real tangible level with clear illustrations, as you said, Mindy, that makes it make sense for teachers, and they can think about, this would be an opportunity for me to do this, and maybe these are examples where I would, not want to use it in that way.
So to change the subject just a smidge, as we've kind of been talking about the digital learning plan with schools, obviously the computer science initiative has come up, and I think there's still a lot of questions around what that's going to look like or what we should expect in the future. Can you give us the down low about what's going on with the computer science initiative?
Well, I will say I'm really excited about the state's growing emphasis on computer science. I'm a convert to this issue. As I said, I'm a social studies teacher by background, but now with kids of my own and being out in schools and seeing how kids just are absorbed by these opportunities to do coding and coding games and to see what they can create using this language is really exciting. And I also get to talk frequently with folks in business and industry, and speaking with the governor, she really sees computer science and coding as a new basic skill, and I would agree with that. I think it's foundational for our students to have at least introductory and beginning and working knowledge of computer science grows more important every day. And so the computer science initiative is focused on a few things. First, it's around setting high quality, clear standards for computer science education. Because I think when we say computer science, folks have, a continuum in their mind. And some are thinking, oh, computer science, well, are you talking about, word processing and typing and
Sure. Yeah.
But sometimes computer, they latch onto that part first and think kind of basic operational, all the way up to full-on programming and very specific languages. And so we're trying to define. We have a statewide working group that right now has computer science standards out for feedback. They've used the CSTA framework as their kind of opening document. But they will refine those, Iowanize them, make sure what Iowans believe are most important for computer science standards get in that document. And the goal is to have those standards in front of the state board for approval in June. And so there's a lot of great work happening on that front. I'm also cautiously optimistic that the legislature this year will fund the Computer Science Professional Development Incentive Fund. And I believe that fund is critical in growing the computer science teaching workforce in Iowa. We're going to need to train and support many, many more teachers to ensure they have the knowledge and skills necessary to prepare our students for the computer science jobs that are ahead. And so if that's funded, that will allow districts to essentially apply for funds to enable teachers to attain certification in a computer science endorsement or to take on professional development in computer science. And so, I think that is a really, really important piece to the puzzle. And then finally, I think at the local level, the more districts can do to create opportunities at elementary, middle, and high school for students to have exposure to computer science is really important. So starting with the youngest grades, giving them initial opportunities, getting a little bit deeper in middle school, and then having really robust computer science offerings in high school is a critical piece of this as well.
Yeah, I think that continuum part is hard because, we'll see a lot of schools doing, elementary coding with drag and drop blocks, but sometimes there's like a little bit of a gap or a chasm with like, okay, so what's after that? And, what is the program in place for doing that sort of thing? So I think that will really help teachers. And
I'm going to put you onto the spot a little bit. Is there a school district out there that you're seeing that's done a really great job that we should kind of keep our eye on?
If you look at Sioux City,
okay.
They have an elementary school. I believe it's Les Hills Elementary in Sioux City that is coding focused at the elementary level, and is really exciting. They try and integrate it at each of the grade levels in the elementary school. And that's one that comes very quickly to mind.
Mm-hmm.
Iowa City is doing some really interesting things. There's a teacher there that is doing just some great work at the middle school level, who's on our computer science work group. Bennett Brown. I'm trying to think of some standout ones at the high school level. But there's, high school, I think there's lots that are offering either Project Lead the Way or AP Principles of Computer Science, and that are just doing really interesting things with their students.
So the coding thing brings up kind of a twist in events. We had a student that had a question for you. Are you ready? Yeah. Okay. So her name is Kaylee, and she's from Benton. And her question is this: what do kids need to do to make sure adults know how important maker spaces are? Because kids know, but how do we make sure adults know? And I thought that kind of tied in nicely with the coding aspect.
Yeah, that's a really great question. And I think educators are starting to think more about student voice in general. So how do we give students the opportunity to have meaningful input into their own learning? And to me, I think Makerspace is one good example. But it's how are we thinking about personalizing learning for students so that they have the opportunity to say, okay, here's where I want to go with this. And then I need the space, the resources, the opportunities to make that happen. And so I think, the more students can advocate for themselves, and I would say to this student in particular, get your friends together and pull together. I mean, there's, truth to the saying, there's power in numbers, right? And so I think that's really exciting that she's asking this question. And I think if she can kind of build a little movement around it, that's how things get started. I was trying to think of where I was. I think I was in Fort Madison last year, and the students got together, and it was a student-driven project to create a makerspace in their library, and it was awesome, and entirely student-generated and student-led. So it's certainly possible.
Doesn't get much better than that.
No, it's really great to see students do that and take the leadership on it.
Cool. All right. We'll maybe come towards a conclusion here, but as we think to the future, what kind of things are important for educators to keep their eye on as they think about the future of education in Iowa?
Yeah, so right now we're nearing the end of the legislative session, so it's April 17th, and this is the day the legislature was scheduled to adjourn, but they're still going, and so my mind is still thinking about the pieces of legislation that were passed. And there are a few that I would highlight. One thing that I think is critically important to think about is school safety. So how do we ensure schools are both welcoming places for students where they feel comfortable and can freely engage in their learning, and also at the same time places where they're safe and secure, and parents don't need to think twice about their students being in a safe place when they drop them off in the morning or say goodbye when they're leaving the breakfast table. And so the legislature passed a piece of school safety legislation that requires schools to have a plan in place in every school building and to practice it every year. And so educators should, be mindful that that's coming. If they haven't in the past regularly practiced their school emergency operations plans, that's going to be coming. And so I think that school safety piece is a real focus area for me. I would also, and this will connect back to the digital learning conversation, but around changes in assessment. So we know the legislature this year put Iowa testing programs in place for the future as the summative assessment for students. And, the plan is next year, it's going to be an entirely new assessment, and it will largely be delivered online. So while it will still be Iowa testing, and students have grown accustomed to over the last several years. So I think those assessment changes on the horizon are important to be mindful of. And then the last thing I would say, I'm just, again, seeing and thinking about so many high quality work-based learning opportunities for students to really engage in their communities, to engage with businesses. I am incredibly excited about the Future Ready Iowa Act and the governor's Executive Order 1, which will create an online clearinghouse of work-based learning opportunities. So regardless of where students live in Iowa, they'll be able to go online and see, Principal Financial wants a group of students to design a test app or some type of application. And more, it's not just going to be open to students in the Des Moines metro, but more, across the state, students will have greater access. So those are just a few things that I would highlight in terms of exciting and important and helpful changes coming in the year ahead.
Sure. I know our chief administrator here, Joe Crozier, he always talks to us about the importance of, as an educator, to be in touch with your local representatives and to help put your voice across to tell them those things. I assume that's something you would, echo and say it does make a difference?
Absolutely. I think, legislators, generally do want to hear from people out in the field, how changes impact them. And so I think, being in touch with legislators is always a good thing.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and talking with us. It was really interesting. I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, thank you for the opportunity. This has been a great conversation and really enjoyed it.
Thanks for your time, Ryan.
All right, you bet. Take care.
All right, so on to the last part of the show. It's Tech Nuggets. Let's do this.
You can go first, Mindy.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to start with the Claro Scan Pen Reader. And this is maybe kind of a different app. It's actually $9.99. So you have to, open up your pocketbooks a little bit. But what it'll allow you to do is to scan in documents and then you highlight on that document something that you want read to you, and it will read printed text to you from a scanned document.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. So really great for those students who, maybe need some assistive technology with, if you're handing out a PDF of some sort, students can scan that and make it a readable doc.
Or if you only have like that paper worksheet version of something, then it can scan that paper worksheet and have kids read it. Yeah.
So $9.99. And I've seen, I saw somebody share it on Facebook, actually a friend of mine, which even if you're a parent and think it would be great for your student at home, might be worth shelling out the $10.
And what's interesting to me here is that down there in the notes you've got no internet connection required. Yeah. Because sometimes these sort of things will scan it, send it to the cloud to process it and do the work, and then send it back down. And so you need an internet connection. So you could use this anywhere technically.
I know.
It's kind of an interesting app.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. I think the next one is going to be something that would maybe be a joint tech nugget here, Mindy.
Shared nuggets.
This is a show first. Yeah. So Mindy and I both happened to pick this same thing. We both happened to come across this recently.
Sort of. We both picked it. I put it on, and then you're like, oh, there's so much more, which I didn't know about. So let's give credit where credit's due. That's
what we're going to go with, is it?
Yeah, go ahead, though. All right, You go ahead.
So I talked about this briefly in a recent presentation I did at Iowa 1-to-1.
Which I did not see, so I didn't steal your nugget.
No, you never come and see my presentations. No. I did one on Chromebook creativity, and I was basically trying to encourage people to think about Chromebooks in a different way and less about what tools there are available, but more like what you can do with it. What can you create with a Chromebook? And under my music sub-tab, I guess, was bunch of musical apps like the Chrome Music Lab.
Right. So, and the one that I had, the actual I don't know, I guess you call it an app, right? Within this little suite.
I guess so.
So the one that I had chose and came across, I didn't even know all of these different things existed, except I came across Songmaker. And what I really liked about it is, first of all, I thought it was super user-friendly for even like our little kids. And so what you do is it kind of gives you this grid, and then you tap inside it. Right? And each little square has a different sound. And then you hit the play button. And it creates this little song for you. And so there's different instruments that you can use. A marimba. I don't know what that is, which I think is maybe what I'm using.
I think that's the one you're using.
Okay. And then there's also electronic and blocks and kit. I don't know what all of those things are. Conga. Nice. Play little drums.
Yeah.
So just kind of a nice way to get kids on and just creating something. So they could take that music and then save it, and you can share the link. I don't know. Can you download it? That I don't know. You can download it, that you can put it somewhere else. But we're always talking about getting kids creating and giving them tools that allow them to do so. Works great with Chromebooks.
Yes, and what I told the audience at my presentation was that one of the features it has, which I thought was kind of interesting, and I did not demonstrate, is that you can actually sing to the computer, and it will recognize the tone of your voice and add that tone. It won't record your voice, but if you sing a high note, it'll put a high note in there. So instead of you tapping on the squares, you could actually just sing the song to it, and it will tap it out there, and you could change the instruments. And
that's maybe one to do off air. I won't demo that on air.
Let's not do that one. Nobody wants to hear that.
Yeah, so that one is called, the suite itself is called Chrome Music Lab. Is that right?
Yes, and there are about 13 different apps for that one.
So the one that I just demoed, though, is called Songmaker.
Correct.
Yeah, so go play.
I like it.
Yeah. So our fearless leader, Stacy Beamer, I was like, Stacy, I need tech nuggets. I was kind of looking for some different things today. And she said, have you looked at the Google Applied Digital Skills? And then she told me that she'd be very disappointed in me if I didn't share it. So I am doing that now, Stacy. And that is these different lesson plans that are there for teachers to give more authentic uses for digital skills. There's videos, there's lesson plans. There's like a student section and a teacher section. So you can kind of go in and I think I've said this before, I think teachers have a hard time finding ways to have the conversation around digital citizenship and kind of ways to bring it into what they're doing. And so this might be a great place to kind of take a look.
All right. This is a new one to me too.
Yeah. I don't know much about it. Like I said, she just shared it with me this morning. So, but she was super excited about it and thought it was a great thing to share out. So there you have it.
All right. Speaking of great things to share out.
Oh boy.
My last tech nugget is Capwing.
Okay.
Which is kapwing.com, which is an online video editor. And it's something I only learned about after my Chromebook presentation. Otherwise, I would probably throw this one in there too, because it's a modern editor built in the web where you can edit videos, GIFs, and images. They have a meme maker, the ability to add subtitles to videos, a video montage maker, video collage. You can reverse video, so to upload a video clip and you want to play it in reverse for like visual effects. You can loop video, you can resize video, trim video. They have a stop motion maker.
What's the cost of that? That can't be free.
All of this stuff is free to use.
No way.
But
what's the
small
hitch?
caveat.
Yeah.
These guys, the about page there is Julia and Eric. This is their little company that they use.
Hi, Julia and Eric.
Capwing is free to use and always will be for all our video editing tools.
Okay.
However, you will get a small video watermark on your creation there. They charge $3 to remove the watermark from a single video, but you can upgrade.
Forever? $3 forever?
Yes.
What?
From a single video. And then you can upgrade to the unlimited plan for $10 a month. and create as many videos as you like without a watermark.
Oh, so if you want one video that doesn't have the watermark, you can just pay the $3 for that video?
Correct.
I see. So I gotcha. Okay. That's how they keep the lights on. I'm becoming much more cynical.
Well, yeah. There in the
That's
FAQ,
fun, though.
in the FAQ though, it does say, "I really can't afford to pay. Are there other options?"
Yes.
And it says, "Well, do you run a website or a blog? If you write an article about Capwing, we'll upgrade you for free."
Does this count?
This could count.
Oh, we need to...
Tag
what is
them.
it? Julian... What was his name?
Julia and Eric.
Julia and Eric. Okay.
Okay, I'm going to keep going.
All right, sorry.
Are you a teacher or student thinking about using Capwing in the classroom? Contact us and we can discuss how we can help.
Oh, it's like a little mom and pop shop. I like that.
Yeah.
Little personal experience.
So there you go. So it's
We need to look into this a little bit. This is a good
called
one, Wiley.
Capwing. Yeah, I think it'd be a fun way to make. You want to make GIFs, you want to make memes, you want to do some
all
simple
of the
things with
things.
videos. I mean, it's not a full-fledged like WeVideo or anything like that. It's just like little tools that are designed to do specific things.
Yeah.
But it's fun.
Yeah.
Have a play with it.
Yeah. Okay. You might win.
Maybe.
That's a good one.
We're keeping score.
I'm always keeping score.
Well, that's about all we have time for this week. Now that I am officially the winner, I will give a big thanks to Ryan Weiss, the Director of Education, who was kind enough to take some time out of his day to join us today.
He's a busy guy.
He is a busy guy.
Yeah.
I'm sure he had better things to do, but he managed to squeeze us in somewhere. So that was nice. I'm going to give a shout out to Brent Warner, who's also been listening to the podcast. He has a podcast of his own. You can find it's edtech.tv. And Ryan Aurelio was listening to us while washing the dishes, Mindy.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah.
Come on over and do my dishes too, will you please?
There you go.
Yeah.
There's an opportunity.
So I am at Team Carney on Twitter, and Jonathan is at Jonathan Wiley. Our team account is at DLGWAA, and you can use our hashtag EdTechTakeout to tag the show. If you prefer, you can send us an email to podcast@gwaa.org.
So until next time.
This has been the EdTech Takeout. We hope it hit the spot.
For more information on today's episode, please visit dlgwaea.org/podcast.
You're like the loudest typer in the world.
It's just
Every time I hear you, that's exactly what I hear. Like,
you type on this keyboard. I think it's just a clicky keyboard.